'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. 'Cause there ain't no
There we
doubt I love this land. All right. It's quite the delay, man. Damn. All right. All right. Close that. There we go. All right. Now we're at 7:20. Fools are gone already. There. There we go. 3 viewers. So I changed the settings. Now I'm in 7:20. So hopefully it'll all be fine. 5 minutes according to the countdown. So cross stitching, man. Yeah. You go like this. And if you got someone with you, you go like this. Also, how are they doing? Oh, was it her birthday? Lovely. Oh, they're going to college? That's great. See, cross stitching. Yeah. All right. See, look at the picture they use for Biden. Whereas Trump is like, that's right, I'm Donald. Yeah. Audio levels, there are audio levels good. That can take a hike. I'll work on that after. All right. Let's see what Fox is doing now, real quick. They still got a wide shot going?
With a stage and seats, this atrium gives hundreds of students.
So that's what's happening now, but Trump's hasn't started yet. They need to hurry up. Apparently there's going to be 70 people in the audience. 70. All right. Is he live? He's live. I'm watching on Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Not watching NBC or Fox, but right now there's 188,000 people watching Fox News's stream and only 14,000 watching Old Donald. So, yeah. And there's a few people who I am subscribed to on Facebook who are streaming this live. So, I guess we're all going to get in shit, aren't we? Why don't you watch Fox or NBC? Because screw them. Because their chat will probably slow down the stream and all this shit. Let's just keep it simple. Right now I have chat hidden. We're just going to stick with the Donald. Because we're sticking with the Donald. Yeah. Peanut M&Ms and beef jerky. I like to sometimes suck on my peanut M&Ms. And then the shell disintegrates, and then suck all the chocolate away until there's just a peanut left. Sounds gay, but that's just what I like to do. Oh, no, they are. I just closed it. I want to see my chat. Well, let's see. Fox News. Chris Wallace's mic is muted. Yeah, Fox News is... Oh, no, they only have commentary on. All right. Let me see Trump's chat. Trump. Trump is allowing chat on his channel, and there's somebody typing in Chinese, and it's just going too fast. So let me hide it again. So yeah, man, cross stitching. You know, you go in a hole and out. Why have they muted Wallace's mic? You know what he's probably doing? He's probably telling them, okay, everybody, now remember, we gave Mr. Biden all the questions in advance. Okay, well, we'll wait till the stream to start, and then we'll get rid of this freaking shit down here. What time is it on my thingy now? 8:59. So yeah, we'll see if they're going to take commercial breaks in this during this debate. Then that means the Trump thing about Biden wanting breaks during the debate is a lie. Because I don't remember the last time an American political debate did not have a commercial break like every 20 minutes. All right, is Fox got audio yet? See, they're muted. The audio's on, but they're not letting the peasants in on all of this shit. This is the stuff that you don't get to see before they go on the air live. It's all the preparation stuff for the audience members, telling them the rules. Yeah. See, apparently even the microphone on this camera is in stereo. A lot of people rave about the microphone on these Logitech webcams. But I'm happy with my Yeti. So yeah, cross stitching. You see these? You see them? Oh, you can't see. See these little patterns in the background? Oh, there we go. Oh no, you can't. But over here, yeah, you see, cross stitching is an art form. And any questions? Just let me know. Let's check Fox News again. All right, they're muted. They're waiting for their network to give them the countdown. Here we go. Let's get rid of this friggin' shit on the bottom real quick. And if it goes away, I'll expand it again. Live commentary mode, I think, is people who work for Fox doing commentary, which makes no friggin' sense. Who cares about their opinions? Oh, this shit is gonna be now, but I have to watch this shit going on the screen. So you guys better be thanking my ass. No, I'm sticking with the Trump man, Daniel. I'm sticking with the Trump. Not doing NBC. If I have to look at Rachel Maddow's fucking face during the stream, I'm gonna puke. Yeah, they're just waiting for the countdown. Like, why? Why does Trump need all this stock shit at the bottom? Come on, dude. Cross stitching is gay. Except when I do it, which is no more. The great thing about only 70 people, it's obviously not a bunch of idiots who paid for tickets to freaking clap and boo and shit. Because the audience never cooperates when they're given those damn rules. Let's check again Fox News where they're at. Everybody's waiting. You see, what's happening now is if you're watching this on TV, the anchors are introducing stuff, saying this is what's going to be covered, and then they're going to eventually say, now we go live to the thing and to the debate. So that's what this dude here is waiting for. He's waiting for his cue. See, here's his teleprompter. He's going to read off of. I guess this is the Declaration of Independence. So yeah. Yep, I know how it works, man. Teleprompter. In here, you have a camera to film the dude. See, look at this lighting. Very professional. See, they're giving his cue. They probably told him 20 seconds. You're gonna have to see your face. Daniel, we're sticking with the Trump man. All right, I'll deal with this shit going along the bottom of the screen. Damn, their quality of this stream looks like shit. Theirs. Maybe I should just go to Fox News. Let me just see real quick. See, he's waiting for his cue.
Which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates.
All right, Fox News.
As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
I was wondering about that shaking hands bit, so now they've got a little free pass out of doing it.
How you doing, man? How are you? I'm well.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first. Cool. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic.
They're not breaking any rules.
Even if we did it after the election itself. I had a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school.
And what can they possibly go after her for?
They
can't
and therefore
accuse
we have the right
rapes. All they can get her on is
and very few people
claim that she's a racist. That's the most they can probably get her on.
The Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped.
They tried to do it in 2016, but the Senate wouldn't let them.
So definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you.
They wanted to fill that one seat before
Biden. You have
the 2016 election.
Well, first of all,
the Senate said, no, we're going to wait till after.
Thank you for doing this.
And now they're saying, no, we're going to do it now.
This, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jerry.
Let's listen to
the American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president.
It doesn't say that in the Constitution,
What's
Junior.
at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million
Almost.
people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed
he's
to the
already having
justice.
trouble.
She seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years.
Yes.
So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
One
And
thing I will
100
say is
million
Biden
Joe,
does look
the
sharp.
100 million people is totally
That's a
wrong. I don't know
cool
where
time,
you got
man.
that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly
knows
going
that.
to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one,
Oh, see, he's-
he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that
I think Chris Wallace here might be holding his hand.
and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What
Trump is trying to knock him off his
Now, here's
game.
the
He's
deal.
trying to mess him
The deal
up.
is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions?
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And
this.
if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban
Joe
China,
won't even look
which
at him.
was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe,
we're-
which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
Much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking
Look
about
at
2
this
million
guy,
people.
man. He's
Mr.
holding
President,
Biden's
as a
hand.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me
But at the
finish.
same time,
The
you'll give him a
point is
chance.
that
Let him
the president
fumble.
also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't know her view.
Well, all right. Let's talk.
Biden's getting a little irritated.
We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So
He's looking at something. I'm noticing that too.
on
Freeman.
health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Watch the spamming, Daniel.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you
rid
an
of the
and when I
individual
finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the
I
worst
didn't
part of
ask it,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part
me.
of Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like you
and
to,
we will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate,
Oh.
and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
ahead.
question. You,
Trump's
in
gotta
the
watch
course of
that
these
shit,
4
man.
years,
They're
have
gonna
never
use
come
that
up
shit
with a
against him.
comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare. And just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something. There's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost, I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing,
Is he, though?
prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
let
but
me
this
ask
is
you about,
big.
you'll
This
be
is
happy,
big stuff.
sir. You'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. and
Trump
the
went into
argument
this
that he
feeling like
makes,
it's gonna be
and other
2 against
Republicans
1, man.
make, is that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will, if I can
sorry.
ask you the question, it will
Not what your
end.
party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are
That's a
poor
cool suit and
Medicaid.
tie, man. I dig that.
Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically
Only
be
80 minutes
enrolled
left,
in
Joe.
the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie
Number-
Sanders, who's
I
far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
When
we
you-
call it.
when
And that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm
you
not going
didn't
to
agree?
listen.
Trump's gotta
The fact
stop,
of the matter
man.
is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole
the
lot.
Sanders fans ain't gonna like that.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days
God.
early. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal.
Trump
Here's the
needs to
deal.
keep it down,
The fact
man.
is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out
He's
his
obviously
lies.
trying to get
Everybody
under
knows
Biden's
he's a
skin.
liar.
But you
Obviously.
I just want to
Hey,
make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish?
Yeah, this ain't
He
looking
doesn't know how
good
to
for
do that.
Trump, man. He's got to
He
stop.
has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Go,
the
go,
wrong
Joe,
night at
go.
the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Trump is doing
There
this on
is no
purpose, man.
manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan that's
folks,
absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you
to,
have any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Medicare.
Do you
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President,
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health
Trump
care
needs to keep
that
his
they had
fucking
from their
voice
employers because of his recession.
But at the same
Number
time,
one.
it's
Number
great he's
two,
getting under Joe's
there are
skin big
20
time.
million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price because
and by the way,
Obamacare
he doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a plan.
fixed it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't. Obamacare
Gentlemen, you realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president's go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away
Well,
the
Jimmy,
individual mandate.
We're just
Listen,
watching
this is the way it is.
cross-stitching.
And that destroyed. That they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
and I
known
just
for.
had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't
point-
work.
Yeah, I think
That's
Trump
all
was
he-
told
we do want
beforehand
to
to
get rid of
interrupt,
it.
get under
I-
Biden's
Chris,
skin,
we
throw
wanna
him
get rid
off.
of it.
I
big
understand
time.
it, sir, but
Something
I have
that's
to
cheaper and
give
better.
you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out
Trump,
wishful
man.
thinking. He has executive
He's
orders that
just
have no
jab,
power.
jab,
He
jab.
hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I
against
have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you,
Man,
in fact,
Trump is
let
real.
people
He's-
know
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen,
Oh,
who's on your
yep.
list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Right, gentlemen,
This is-
I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's gonna pack the
unpresidential.
court.
We have
I'm not gonna give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is
47 years.
COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck.
Uninterrupted.
200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease.
And what did
he do?
Pelosi say?
He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and he we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
So
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund
Say
what
it to
needs
his
to be done
face,
now
man.
to
Look at
save
him.
lives.
So
I hate
if
when
we would have
politicians do
listened
that
to
shit.
you,
You have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should
unrelated
have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No,
Wait a
sir,
minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily
to
on my
name
side
some, man.
said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was far
no,
less
there was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
you made
by
a
the way.
point. Let him answer it.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And
You would have been
And by the way,
months late.
your own,
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine. We're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
The
Fauci.
same
Johnson,
scientists who
Pfizer.
are working on it now
Okay,
will be
by the
working
way,
on it if this
and then
fucking
let me
idiots.
move
That
on
is a
to
stupid argument, man.
Questions about the future.
Bloody
because
hell.
You both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask.
That's a retarded argument.
Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Smawi?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the
The
summer
boo sound
before
was
it's
because
generally
Biden
available,
said that he
just
wouldn't
like
He
trust
said it's
Trump
a
with the
possibility that
vaccine.
we'll have the answer.
When the scientists who are
before
working on the
November
vaccine
1st.
now
It
will
could
be the
also
same
be after
scientists
that.
who will work on the
Generally
continue
we're
working
gonna
on
deliver
it should
right away.
Biden
We have the
win.
military all set up.
So that argument
Logistically,
is
they're
dumb.
all set up. We
It's not
have
like,
a military
ooh,
that
Biden's
delivers
president, let's
soldiers,
fire all
and
those
they can do
scientists and have my
200,000 a
scientists
day.
do it.
They're going
Doesn't
to
work
be
that way.
This is
delivering
the
the
same
vaccine.
man.
ridiculous
who
argument.
told you by Easter, this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
and you
same-
know that.
I-
That was said
And so
sarcastically.
here's the
It was
deal.
a dumb thing to
This
say.
man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
Yes.
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no,
you can't trust the
no,
scientists.
well, no. You can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She
the
said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well,
She said she would not
that's what he's
take a
gonna
Trump
try to do,
vaccine.
but there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people, and by
I
the way.
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in
and
charge.
By the way.
They will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State.
Oh, thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy is my new best friend,
Graduated
courtesy of that
Either the lowest
$5.
or
I don't know
almost the
why it
lowest
didn't
in your
change up
class. Don't
there,
ever
but
use
I'll
the word
change it.
smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know
Well, you
what?
did it through
There's
Stream
nothing
Elements,
smart
not
about you, Joe.
the
47
Super Chat.
years
That's
you've
why I
done
didn't
this.
Let's have
appear.
this debate.
And if you
Thank
would
you,
have had,
Jimmy.
let me just tell you something.
Munstetter.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
see,
and
we're
it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
okay.
It's going up fast. I look
Okay.
forward to talking
When
about
it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings.
Biden
Vice
is acting
President
as if
Biden,
he's
you
a
have been
friggin'
much more
running for
reluctant than
Canadian
President
Prime
Trump
Minister is being
about
really-
reopening the economy and schools.
Yes.
Why, sir?
Whereas Trump is
Because
just in
he
your
doesn't have a
face, man.
plan.
That's
If I were
what
running,
I always
know
thought America
what
was,
the
man.
plan
Just in
is.
your fucking
You've
face.
got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
crying
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the
Okay.
Senate.
Let
And he sits on his golf course. And I mean, literally,
Okay.
think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country. And I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a great
he just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second.
He's
wanted-
really trying to
he
get
wants
under
to shut
Joe's
down
skin,
the
man,
country.
big time.
We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to
thing.
another
I've
subject.
got to respond.
But those states are not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Wants to
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said the opposite.
no serious person said the opposite.
Well, it was
No
going well that way in
serious-
Canada
All right,
until
Dr.
school went back
Dr.
and all the young
Fauci
people
said
started
he did
getting
not
I
it.
want to
say
ask
the
you, we got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly
minute left in this
Daniel.
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks.
I
I'm
want to
okay
ask,
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
By the way, did you see
Judge, sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect. And we've had 35,000, 40,000
All right. Do you
people
want
at
to
any of these rallies.
just
Yes.
quickly finish
Yeah,
up, because
a
I
dog
want to move on to
shitting
our
on a
next-
Yes, I
sidewalk
would.
draws a
He's
bigger
been
crowd
totally
than a Biden
irresponsible,
rally.
The way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But
Trump
what happened
said,
is
ban
we
travel from
closed it
China,
down,
and they
now
called
we're
him a
reopening,
racist.
And we're doing record
And
business.
said, no problem,
We had
everything is fine.
10.4
It's on
million
video.
people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing?
That is a cool looking, that is a sharp outfit, I will say that.
$750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir. Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in a way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency, not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses, nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. Well, we are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And the people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When he took
gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans.
I think they should be looking at the mortality rate,
Mr. President. As you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years.
With this thing.
I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers. I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax returns.
I went You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have
See if he brings up Hunter.
I built a
Sir,
great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is...
let me tell you-
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand
return.
all of that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it.
I'm-
And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let me just
Inshallah?
tell you, Chris,
Doesn't
let me
the
just say
paper that
something.
reported at 750
It was
have
the
a
tax
copy of it?
laws.
If not,
I don't want to pay tax. Before
Then
I
why do
came
people
here,
believe in this shit?
I was
Because
a
they're
private
retarded.
developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're
Well, look at
stupid,
me here.
they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got
Let me hear
fired
it.
No,
right after that
Jimmy
happened.
paid
Vice President
$5
Biden
in taxes last
Yeah, you
year.
want to respond.
It's true because I
The
said
tax
it.
code that made
You know who believed that? That Eli
him in a
guy.
position.
You don't
that he
need
pays
proof for
less
people who
tax
fucking
than
hate
a
people.
School teacher make.
So this
on the
newspaper
money
that
a
claims
school
Trump
teacher
paid $750,
is because of.
did they
him
see the
he
tax
says he's
returns
smart
and show
enough
it to
take
us?
advantage of the
Or is
tax
that not allowed?
code. And he does take
If that's
advantage
not
of the
allowed,
tax
then
code.
why
That's
is reporting it
I'm
allowed?
going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts, and I'm going to eliminate those tax
Okay.
cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you
Ask
do
them.
it over
Jimmy.
the
No,
last
wait,
25
no,
years?
let's-
Because
I
you
wanna-
weren't
Why didn't
president.
you do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator. and
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of
we're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
ma'am.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more
Yeah.
than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an
Politicians
additional $1
cannot
trillion
hire people.
in economic growth
They
because it
cannot
would be
force
about
businesses to hire
buying
anybody.
American. That we're going to make, the federal government spends $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel.
Biden
to
can't do it,
buildings
Trump
and the
can't
like.
do it.
And under my proposal,
It's
we're
up to
going to
the
make sure
companies to
that
do it.
every penny of that has to be made by
Hello,
a
Sif.
company
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm
Welcome to
talking about
cross-stitching
taxes,
today.
not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, federal.
Biden's hanging in there.
Fortune 500.
He's
who don't
having
pay
his
a
little
single
stutters now and then,
penny
but
tax,
Trump is
making
really
billions of
chipping
dollars.
away at
You
him.
do it
Billions
before
of
when you were
dollars.
vice president.
Trump is getting under his skin. He's
Because
trying
you,
really
in
hard.
fact, passed that. That was
Right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
You got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never boomed
The
before.
economy
Well,
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
let me
wait, no,
finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave for
hardly
other
any companies
places.
have
They will
more than a
leave,
year.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the likes
that-
of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he blew
booming.
it. He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
$1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact, there was,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not bring it.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio. and
Wasn't it the
Michigan.
taxpayers
He
who
blew
brought
it. They're
that back
gone.
with that
He blew
fucking
it.
$700
And in fact,
billion
they're
bailout?
going
Ohio
after
had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And they
Mr.
didn't
Vice-
come
wait,
in
wait,
with
wait,
you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have
that's
the highest
racist, Joe.
trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch,
All
down
right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe, and
but-
no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while
not
we're at it,
true.
why is
Simply
it,
not.
just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
is
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that-
deserve
Wait, wait,
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked your
that is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please. You've
totally
asked a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
it is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion.
Yeah, Trump
Please.
needs to-
It's a fact.
Well,
Cooling on this
you
shit,
have
man.
raised an issue. Let the
been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month
What-
with
what-
no
what-
experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no
my
job.
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
and
Mr.
40 more
President,
minutes, Joe.
Let him answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited.
Can you imagine
Matter
if
of
Trump was up
matter
there
of fact,
against
even
Hillary
people
right
who
now? She'd be
testified
flipping the
under
fuck out.
oath.
So let me
Under
ask you
oath.
this,
Under-
Joe.
under
No, no,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even the
you.
people under
He got $3.5
Trump needs
million
to cool it, though.
in Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I did
really?
it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't do a
well,
good
here's
job.
the-
With you,
Go
they
ahead.
said-
You get
here's
the,
the
wait
deal.
a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say, Joe.
No. I'm Mr. President. I'm
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did he
not true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my
Let-
family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by
Go ahead.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a.
they're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect $3.5
people.
million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No, I-
He
I-
stood up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion,
Sir,
if you don't
that
get rid of
is
the
If you're-
press.
you know what? You're
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why shouldn't I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, You each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something
here
else,
we
go
go.
ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to
See,
speak.
it doesn't look like
with
Trump's got any
fewer
notes in front of him
interruptions.
either.
I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4
Trump
years?
is,
Vice President Biden, you go
I'm
first.
sure he's already getting just destroyed on Twitter right now.
Inequality. It's
For
about
how he's just,
decency.
yeah.
It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
Finish the statement.
It is whose
Now,
2 minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to you is that when
Later, Freeman.
Floyd
Have
was
a
killed,
lovely
Mr.
week.
Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about.
It's up to the
you
states,
have to look
though,
at what he did, and what he did
to
has
implement
been
that shit, isn't it?
disastrous
Jimmy,
for the African American
Americans?
community.
So,
But Trump said that
President
everyone
Trump, you
must
have
wear
2
a mask, and
minutes.
that would be
Why
fascism,
should
would it not?
Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism.
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators.
That
And
was
they've never
Hillary.
forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
never
No, no, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony
was
over
Hillary
the years,
who
you've
called
called them
them
a
that,
lot
wasn't it?
worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got
All
the
right,
support.
Mr. Black Goldfish is once again my new best friend.
Generals. Total
Thanks for that
support.
$10
Law
donation.
enforcement, almost every
The
law
Stream
enforcement
Elements.
group
Ah,
in
so
the
it's not
United
gonna pop up
States.
on
I
there.
have Florida, I have
I gotta
Texas,
put the Stream
I have
Elements stuff up there,
Ohio,
too.
I have.
Thank you, Mr. Goldfish.
Excuse me, Portland. The
My new
sheriff
best friend.
just came out today, and he said, "I support."
Yeah.
President Trump, I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word
For the
law
low, low
enforcement,
price
because
of
if you say those
$10.
words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race.
Yeah, I got to
Vice
add another
President
bar
Biden,
up there.
after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police
That much closer to the
with
PS5.
homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in
Only
education,
30 more
and
minutes.
work, and in law enforcement, and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest?
President Trump,
No,
I'm
it's
not
not,
asking-
but you say it is.
President
not
Trump,
say
I'd
it.
like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
No.
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
Is radical,
and he would know.
What is
it was
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and, frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country.
Yes.
And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the
There's
racist.
video of it.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know. They don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can
Agreed,
defeat
Jimmy.
racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
Political
During
correctness
the
is the
Obama
language of cowards.
Biden administration, there was tremendous division.
I'm not saying go out there and be
There was
racist
hatred.
to everybody.
You
I'm
look
saying,
at,
hey, man, we got to be allowed to
Ferguson,
make
you
fun
look
of ourselves and
you
each
go to
other.
Very many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
People are getting
Violent
canceled
crime.
Still
for
haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor
Insensitive
of law and order?
comedy.
I'm in favor of law. You following
Are you
it
in
and a little
favor
bit
of
of
law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law
He
and order.
loses
Law
left.
and
Let
order.
him- let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
Same here,
It's
Jimmy.
gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're
He
down.
is
You're,
president of
Mr.
the
President,
United
you're going
States
to.
of America.
China, we
Mr.
were
President,
breaking every
you're-
record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're
Yeah,
going to be
this
very
is a
happy
total
because we're now
train
going to
wreck,
talk
man.
about
Trump
law
needs to
and order.
stop the
We had
interruptions. They're
trouble
not
with
working.
Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
those
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime.
Republican
It is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would
way-
be gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a
before.
suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead.
I was,
Wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though.
I don't think
And
either
in
one is
the
winning.
joint
There's just too much
recommendation
interrupting, too
that
much,
came from the Biden, Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote,
It's like a really
reimagining policing.
wrestling promo before
First
they
of all,
start
what does
fighting.
reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
look. What I support is
According to
the
me,
police
nobody's winning.
having the
It's been
opportunity
mostly
to deal with the problems they face.
Name calling
And
and
I'm
all
totally
that
opposed
shit.
to defunding.
It's been
the
nothing
police
about
officers.
plans,
Matter
future
of
plans
fact,
and
police,
shit.
local police. The only one defunding
been about
in
the
his budget
past.
calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist.
It's
to
like
keep
they got
them
these
from
two in the
having to
room
use
together to
force
air out their
and be able to talk
differences.
people down. We have to have
to try to
community
air out their
policing like we
differences,
had
you know,
before,
that kind of
where
shit.
the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
That's-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're talking about.
that's
He's talking about
exactly-
defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
about it.
Look,
Name
folks,
one law
folks,
enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There
moderator's
aren't. I don't
role,
think there
and
are any.
I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests.
See, this is shit that they
which I
both
think you would
talked
agree. You
about
talk about peaceful protests.
separately to the
Many of
media
those
about
turned
for
into
fucking
riots.
months. This is
Mr.
not
Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader.
that.
Excuse me, sir. You have never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to
Because
bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
Here's the
But
thing.
no,
I
that-
sent
sir,
in
no,
the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer
No,
of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
he's
had to send in
interrupted.
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
See, this
I
is
do.
like one big long.
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
Like in wrestling,
So
they
here's-
call it the
well,
go home
here's
show
the
before
point.
the big pay per
The
view.
point
This
is
is like
that
one big long
that's
back
what
and
he is,
forth
keep
between
trying
these
to
two main
rile
eventers
everything up.
before they actually
He
fight.
doesn't want to calm things
Talking
down.
about the past and
Instead
shit?
of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
Then again, that's how all
You have
debates go.
repeatedly.
Wait,
you have
just one
repeat. No,
second.
you've been talking
You
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
You
we
know, if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats,
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the
I'm-
National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do
specifically
that, but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say,
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing.
Yeah, I heard about
not
that,
from the
Sid.
right
So
wing.
what are you-
If
what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right-wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
on
Go ahead,
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not
Kid.
militia. That's what his
It's an idea.
His
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
we're
then
gonna-
you know
Needs to
what?
be
No,
fired.
we're done, sir. We're
Everybody-
moving on to the next.
everybody
We're
gives
moving.
you
Bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's
administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas that are
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group.
now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go
Yeah,
first.
tell
2
us about
minutes.
the future, man.
Because there has never been an administration or president
Nobel
who
Peace
has done
Prize.
more than I've done.
3
in a period of
nominations.
3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A
Space
fixing
Force is
of
awesome, man.
the VA, which was a mess under him.
Might see a
308,000
person
people
on the
died
moon in
because
my
they didn't have
lifetime.
proper
It'd be
health
awesome.
care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say
Yeah,
maybe
Antifa
the
are
most
trash.
important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately
college kids who don't know
300
shit about anything.
federal judges and Court of Appeals judges.
I'm gonna be
300,
45 in a couple months, and even I don't know
hopefully
everything.
3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I
work in the media, man. These guys
we left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession.
It's us who's
With
doing it.
regard
People
to
like
being
me are
weaker.
fucking doing
The
it.
fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made
Not
it
the
clear to him
honkies,
we're
the
not
people
gonna
who work
take
in the
any of his
fucking
stuff.
media are doing
He's
it.
Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
And-
$3.5 million.
That's right.
Mi-
And
Mr.
by the way,
President,
my son.
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well,
Yeah, Trump
your
is-
side agreed to it. And why don't you observe what
I'm
your
sure they're
campaign
already
agreed to as a
burying him
ground
on
rule,
Twitter.
okay,
They're going
sir?
to continue
keeps
for all
his
these
word.
interruptions.
Can you add
and
No,
shit.
He's
I'm
a
not asking.
person that's
That
not
was a
yelling
rhetorical
at the pistol.
question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah,
Because-
yes,
okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States.
Who's doing it,
It's
though?
on his
It's on
watch. And with
in
regard
TV.
to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk
Sal, I
about
wanna
them
beat the
being
shit out of
losers
people.
and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably
cocaine
discharged.
use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is
China.
and
simply
various
not
other places.
true.
Yeah,
He
I know.
My
made a
son,
fortune.
my son,
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it.
Everybody gets
And I'm
more
proud
wealthy
of
when they
him.
become
Why was he
politicians,
given
man.
tens of millions
All
of
right,
But
dollars?
he wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions of
He was
dollars.
given
That
tens.
is
Remember Bernie
totally
Sanders?
discredited.
President Trump,
Totally
President Trump,
discredited.
we've already been through.
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think
Bernie
the
Sanders in
American people would
2016
rather
said,
hear
we got to do
more
something about the
substantial-
millionaires and billionaires.
Well,
Then he
you know,
became a millionaire,
as
and
the
now he's like,
moderator
we got to do
said,
something
I'm gonna
about the
make a
billionaires.
judgment call
Somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, great.
from the
Let's talk
mayor of
about-
Moscow.
Yeah.
That's
China.
not true.
Gentlemen,
That
thing.
report
China.
is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers'
Gen-
money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
God,
Okay.
these
The forest fires in the West are
Left-hard
raging
friggin'
now.
topics.
They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds
Talk about
of
Space
thousands of
Force.
people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows.
Agreed,
Over your
Sid.
4 years,
They need to look
you
at the
have
mortality
pulled the
rate
US
and
out
not
of the
the-
Paris Climate Accord.
how
You
many
have
people
rolled
have
back
gotten
a
it.
number of Obama environmental
Look at how many
records.
people have died. It's
What
very low.
do you believe
Open the shit
about
back
the
up.
science of climate change?
Tell all the old people to
and
stay home.
What will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. the forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you
Wildfires
believe
are
about the
nuts,
science
man. They
of
burn a lot
climate
of shit.
change, sir?
Tons of area.
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this
I think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we
Yeah,
have
like,
to do
but
better
especially in
management
India and
of our
China.
forests. Every
They
year,
pollute like
I get the
motherfuckers.
call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants?
carpet. I
Why
want
have
that
you
carpet.
relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your
a lot of cars
roadmap.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think
Yeah,
I'm
man,
all for
automation's
electric cars.
killing
I give them
everybody.
big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just
All right.
crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by
They've
2050.
been saying this shit for decades.
The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's
come up
going
here,
to build
Sal. You're just
another
gonna fuck up the stream like you did last time.
coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035.
Yeah, that's
Not
people
only
doing
not costing people
sacrifices
jobs,
now for the
creating
future, which a lot of
jobs,
people aren't willing to
creating
do.
millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that, in fact, is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, makes sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings
and
rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. You know, not true either, right?
Cow farts.
This is a $100 trillion.
Look,
that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're
not
going to
the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes,
who pays for it?
The president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
Yes.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions
People
of
will
jobs,
probably get like a
good-paying jobs.
Let him finish.
$1,000 rebate on their taxes. That's nothing.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
He did say.
You made it up.
I heard about that. I don't know if he actually said that. If it is,
we are
he's a
going to be
fucking
in a
idiot.
position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble.
Seems like under
Look
Biden's
what's happening
plan,
just in the
you would be
Midwest, where these
forced to
storms that
upgrade
come
your
through and
house
wipe out
to
entire
green-friendly.
sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming.
And you
We
probably
make
wouldn't
up
get much financial
15%
help to
of
do
the
it.
world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest
people
of the
are
world,
selfish.
we got to
They
get
were
them
like,
to come
"Fuck the
along."
future,
That's why we
man.
have to get back
I'm living in the now.
back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion,
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
you
New
want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All right,
rebuild
all right.
every.
You asked-
knew
you asked-
anything
wait a
about-
minute, wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
He made a statement
Gentlemen,
about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up,
Sanders
and then they
people
went
ain't
with
gonna
it.
like
I
that.
never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said it
not.
on tape. He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that
Play
to the
Stop.
it.
military.
Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New Deal.
you don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I support the
You just lost the radical left.
I support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put
See,
forward.
Trump is really trying
The Biden
really
plan,
hard
which is different than
to get
what
Biden
he
off his
calls
game.
the
Biden has
radical
held on. I
Green
got to
New
give it
Deal.
to
All right,
him.
gentlemen, final segment. Election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of
agree,
Americans
Sid.
are receiving
Recently in Canada,
mail-in ballots or going to
people were
vote
given
early.
like a little tax
How
incentive
confident
to upgrade their
should
houses.
we
It was like
be
$1,000.
that this will be a fair election?
They spent
And
more on the
what are you
upgrades than the
prepared
tax-free
to do
Vegas. It's ridiculous.
over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also
You get, like,
counting some
green-friendly
ballots,
furnaces and
mail-in
shit put
ballots
in.
after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? You're going to get 4 more years of these lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all.
The day after he won, they were crying impeachment.
We've caught them all. And by the way,
day
you gave the
after, I
idea for
remember
the
that
Logan
shit.
Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense, and President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free
think he
transition.
can.
As far
course
as
he
the
can.
ballots
Anybody
are
can.
concerned,
I
it's
think
a
he will.
disaster. A solicited ballot, okay? Solicited
most
is
people
okay. You're soliciting. You're asking.
are not
They send it
fooled by
back.
this
You send
Twitter
it back.
shit.
I did that. If you have an unsolicited,
I've seen
they're
the
sending
turnouts at
millions
Trump's
of
rallies
ballots all over the
versus
country.
Joe Biden's
There's
rallies.
fraud. They found them in creeks.
I don't see
They
Biden
found
winning it.
some with the name Trump. Just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory,
That's
should have
crazy
been
if
announced.
it's true.
We have major states with that,
Sir,
all run by
2
Democrats.
minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by
You're-
Democrats. It's
President
a fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter, of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out. What are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so, because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it? There are millions of ballots going out right now.
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go and vote. You go and vote.
But
like
what I'm
they,
saying is,
like they used
I
to.
don't even
Millions
trust that
of
style of
people.
voting.
You either
either.
do,
Please,
Chris,
like,
a
they're so
solicited ballot
divided,
where you're
even up
sending
here.
it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending.
I wouldn't even trust
they
that
have
shit.
mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is
evidence
not
of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states
In fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by Election Day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he
You're
knows
wrong.
the outcome.
You're wrong. I love
I
counting
want to
the
continue with you on
I
this,
love
Vice
counting the
President
votes.
Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes
in
a
fact,
statement.
No, excuse me. Vice President Biden,
About him,
the biggest
Wallace?
problem, in fact, over the
I
years
think he's
with
trying.
mail-in voting
I think he would
has
love
not
to
been fraud
smack Trump in the
historically.
fucking head. Trump
It has
needs to-
been that
But I get why
sizable
Trump
numbers,
is
sometimes
doing all
hundreds
this
of
shit
thousands
because
of
they've
ballots
just been
are thrown
attacking
out
his ass for 4
because
years.
they have not been properly
he's not
filled
helping his
out, or there
cause.
is some other irregularity, or they
can
missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is,
They're going to
are you
bury him
concerned
tonight and tomorrow
that the
in the
Supreme
next few
Court
days in
with
the
a
media.
Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you
Talk about how he was
when you get a
unpresidential.
ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you
I
have
a final-
80 million ballots
Gentlemen, I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Mail
deception.
service
Final-
delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen, in the
185
final
million
question
pieces of
is,
mail a day.
in
million
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
in
a
8 states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president
it's
is.
gonna suck, man.
First for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other.
The only way
Will you
that to
urge
prevent
your
that would be for
supporters
us landslide
to stay
on
calm
election night.
during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
what-
you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're gonna
tell you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do
They're
about
not.
that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two.
Okay.
They cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name
I
Trump
heard about
on
that.
them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted.
Oh,
and
this
will you
dude's about
pledge
to lose it.
Not to declare victory until the election is independently certified.
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way,
Swearing an oath
our
doesn't mean
military,
shit.
They've been voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War.
Humans are assholes. As long as one person has access to that
Why
shit,
was it not? Why is it for them?
That's all it takes.
Somehow not fraudulent. It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a
but-
look at Carolyn Maloney's race
I
in
asked
Manhattan.
you had an opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to
if
see
in
an
fact,
honest
Okay,
ballot count.
gentlemen,
We-
you say that's the end of
Chris,
it. This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate.
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
going to
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to
they're
thank
doing
Case
3?
Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting
Plus
this
there's the vice
event.
president
The
one.
next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah
Wow.
in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch.
that should be a lot
Until
more
then,
civil.
thank you and good night.
All right, yeah, that was a.
Thank you.
See if they're gonna talk shit to each other or something. Yeah, the media's already having a field day ripping on Trump's performance tonight because of his interrupting and shit. She's a fucking phony, man. I don't like her at all. She's gonna divorce old Donald once he's no longer president, man. Oh, look at them. They're camera. Fuck off. They are right there. All right. So that was that. I don't think I'll be streaming any more debates. As I said, that, oh my God. They both looked. Yeah. I guess Trump did have notes. Yeah, I don't think either of them won. It was just a fucking typical shit show. All right, so that's that. Thank you for the donations from Jimmy, who was my new best friend for about 10 minutes until Mr. Black Goldfish bought my friendship and became my new best friend once again. And that was that. And that was an hour, 47 minutes. Well, that was an hour and a half. All right, go do stuff with your lives. And I most likely won't be streaming Vice President's what's next week, Wednesday? Yeah, I'm not going to be up on Wednesday. I'm going to go to bed early for work the next day. Go do stuff. And I don't know. Yeah. Trump, yeah, they both, nobody won. And I would recommend avoiding Twitter for the next at least 24 hours because it's going to be a shit show and a half. So I'm going to leave now. Go play with yourselves.